So in this video I'm going to show you the most broken class in Wrath of the Lich King, and that is the Fire Mage. Now the first reason is that Fire Mages have the most broken spell in the game, Living Bomb, a talent right at the end of the fire tree. The thing about Living Bomb is that it ticks on the target for 12 seconds, then exploding for a lot of damage on the primary target, but crucially for a lot of secondary damage on nearby targets. The ability has no cooldown other than the global cooldown and constantly can be spammed repeatedly on multiple targets, which means you can do insane AoE damage that has no equal. The secondary damage from each living bomb goes off almost simultaneously, creating a super explosion of fiery death that scaled damage exponentially. Here's a trick to make this or any other Fire Mage ability absolutely lethal, and it requires manipulation of the ability Combustion. First, strip your character naked. It is easier if you use an add-on like Gear Quipper here to switch between naked and your regular set. Now attack something with an AoE ability. Here I'll use Blast Wave. Now the way Combustion works is that your critical strike chance increases by 10% every time you hit something and it doesn't crit. 3 crits and Combustion is consumed, it's gone. So when we attack without gear, our crit chance is very low, so we have a good chance to stack it up really high. This makes for some devastating AoE damage when you can free cast at enemies that haven't noticed you. For example, in this scenario in Dun Baldar in Alterac Valley, when defending the Dwarven boss Vandar for the Alliance, you can often wipe the Horde completely, essentially just spamming Living Bomb and using Pyroblast when you get a proc. It is so much fun doing this. But it doesn't end with Living Bomb. In original Wrath, this ability went more or less overlooked, but this talent, Firestarter, allows you to do some insane high damage AoE at virtually no mana cost. But first, I'm just going to promote my Patreon. This time I'm just doing the noises. My Patreon? Link in the description below. When you cast Blast Wave or Dragon's Breath, you get an instant cast Flamestrike with no mana cost. What has changed here from original Wrath, and it's a significant change, is that in original Wrath you had to place a reticle to cast Flamestrike, which is clunky and impractical. But in Classic Wrath you'll be able to use the @cursor and @player command to avoid the reticle placement altogether. This means you can use macros like this one instantly. This is a very low mana way to obliterate things in Legacy dungeons. You can mix it up with Frost Nova and Colder Cold depending on your playstyle. With the Combustion trick I mentioned earlier, you can potentially do massive pulls in high-end vanilla and, as we gear up in Wrath, TBC dungeons. Now before we continue, I'd just like to mention that as added incentive to watch to the end of the video, I will be revealing the meaning of life and existence somewhere near the end of the video. Now here's a trick I haven't seen mentioned anywhere, but it's really strong for Legacy dungeons. The talent Blazing Speed gives you a 10% chance when hit by a melee or ranged attack to increase your movement speed by 50% and dispel all movement impairing effects. People talk about this talent mainly for PvP, but if you try it in vanilla dungeons, you'll see how powerful it is. Things are hitting you constantly, but not doing much damage, so you have a speed buff all the way through the dungeon, which makes for some very fast gold farming. Olden dungeons often contain items which, for various reasons, will still be worth a lot of gold in Wrath, and using this talent, you will be able to do that with lightning speed. Despite their massive dominance in AoE damage, Fire Mages have the ability to do very high direct damage, even to the extent of one-shotting other players. Here's a method which is enormous fun, which can do exactly that, though it has a huge cost. First, you want to select enough arcane talents to get the Presence of Mind talent, which allows you to instant cast any spell. Now select enough fire talents to get the Fiery Payback talent, picking up Pyroblast and Combustion on the way. This trick depends on manipulating the Fiery Payback talent, which allows you to cast almost instant Pyroblasts when your health is below 35%, at the cost of giving Pyroblast a 5-second cooldown. Using a gear switch add-on, I'm using item rack here. It is possible to strip your character, then switch back to your main set. This will generally leave your character below 35% HP. You can see here this allows my mage to cast a pyroblast in 1.49 seconds. You can then use Presence of Mind to launch an instant fireball. Done right, this will kill many players outright, especially with the ticks of additional damage from Ignite. If this combination doesn't kill the player outright, then you can usually finish the job with an instant cast Fire Blast. There's actually a way to cast 2 Pyroblasts back to back, but it requires stupidly perfect timing. If you cast a Pyroblast at the exact moment your health rises above 35%, you get the benefit of the low Pyroblast cast time without the additional cooldown. You can then use Presence of Mind to instant cast and get another Pyroblast. If you can actually pull this off in a real PvP situation, it is devastating, but it is very difficult to do so in actual combat for various reasons. If you like a challenge and want to explore this further, I'd recommend looking into HP boosts from health stones and potions to cross the 35% threshold instantly, as this simplifies the timing greatly. There's 3 additional things here which you could make entire videos about, such as their power in the right situation. But just to cover briefly, there's a special buff fire mages can get that is completely unique to their class, and that's the special magical consumable item Flame Cap, which gives you 80 fire spell power and lasts for a full minute. This doesn't even share a cooldown with potions. This is so strong I even use it in retail WoW despite the scaling. In Wrath Classic this thing just gives stupidly OP extra damage. In Wrath we have access to a minor glyph which allows us to cast Slowfall infinitely without reagents, which has incredible mobility advantages. You can escape from virtually any combat situation if you are next to a sheer drop, and you will always start Eye of the Storm with 50% more health. Worth mentioning also that Blast Wave has a knockback effect, which, while it's generally only usable in specific situations, is devastating when it can be used. Oh, and the meaning of life. Go jogging regularly and eat healthy, nutritious meals. Recognize that we are simply a minor aspect of a superconsciousness comprising Gaia and the zeitgeist of human experience, which is in itself an aspect of a mega-consciousness comprising time, space, and the myriad dimensions of the multiverse. Oh, and this is really important. If you get really depressed about something, eat 4 packs of Monster Munch really fast, and then whatever you're worried about will seem like absolutely nothing compared to the massive guts ache you'll get.